Hey there, it's Kevin here, also known as AKAAWOL. I'm really hoping you're excited about today's video. It's a doozy. In today's video, I'm going to try to cover how I make the bases to the bags that I've done. Here we have my actual first bag, and I have to admit, I made it relatively simple. As you see here, this is basically the same as how a regular bracelet just kind of comes into a point. And what I did was I took the bag itself and came in and did that 6 times. And then as each of those strings was coming this way, after I had the diamonds, I just tied them in a knot to each other. And that's basically how I got that for a base. So this is relatively simple. If you're just doing something small, somebody asked me about like a dice bag or something, this is how I would do it. Now I've seen some really nice ones where they started in the middle and they worked their way up. And what I don't like about that as much is it puts the endings at the side that you're going to see all the time. Right? I don't know if that makes a whole lot of sense. I know that some people are very clever in the way that they're able to hide that, but me personally, I've hidden the joining bit down at the bottom that's seldomly seen. And I can show that again in this bag. See, this bag is super complicated, right? I even basically put on a bit of leather for the handle, right? But if you go to the bottom, here we have that same diamond again. And this side came down as a diamond, but what I did, and here's this diamond, so what I did was these came down, and where that point was, I just basically let these run flat. And you can see it's not perfect, but anybody catching a glance of it is going to think, wow, that's really amazing, you know. And it truly is. I mean, this was a super complicated bag. It took quite a while to make, but this is the simplistic way. If you're just starting, you just want to get a bag done, this is what I would definitely recommend. Now, I know a lot of you are really probably more curious into the more advanced ones, and that could be even kind of, you know, like this. Now this one's really sort of crazy. Instead of putting it at the bottom, I actually sorted it so I could have basically 2 bases for it. That's a bit way more advanced. Maybe we'll save that for another video, but I can kind of give you the gist of how this whole thing works with this. This is just a small bag that I'm right now in the process of making. And let me just clip this up here and I will show you. Have you ever accidentally gone and when you were trying to tie a knot, grabbed 2 strings and you just tied that one over top of the 2 strings like that? You know, of course you had to go back and you had to undo it because it was just going to mess up everything that you were doing, right? And here I'll do it again over here. This kind of light blue across these 2, right? So it could happen, right? You do that. Now, a while back, I got a notion that if you were doing that, let's take a look. This piece here is 16 strings per loop, if you count after the loop, the 16 strings hanging down. And that means there is 6 of the loops, that's 96 strings. So we know that 96 strings make this circle, right? Now, if in this circle you have the 6 points, and at each one of those points you were to tie into 2, you're going to reduce 96 down by 6, so you're going to end up with 90 strings instead. So 90 strings is obviously just a little bit smaller, right? So what you've essentially done is by reducing down 2 strings in strategic places, whoa, not my favorite compass, you've created a smaller circumference. A smaller circumference means you're tapering in this whole bottom part here, right? So if you're clever about how you're going to taper in, you could, in this case here, you can see I dropped off what I believe probably was originally the blues, and then I dropped off the red because it was only using 3 colors, right? I kept dropping off one until it got down to where there's just little diamonds, and then that broke into something else altogether. But it was just a clever tapering it down. Now, to keep it so that way the strings don't kind of come unraveled and stuff from the bag being used, where I've gone over the 2, I'll do that a couple more times so that way the string that I'm going to chop off ends up, like I'll probably end up dropping this silvery one, right? So I'll come over it a couple more times, cut it off, and because it's actually anchored underneath here, I don't have to worry about it trying to come unfrayed or something like that. So that's relatively what it boils down to. There is no exact science to it. I haven't come up with anything that makes it so that I could show it on a graph paper or anything else. Most of the time, I had tried to make the bag more rounded, you know. So if this is the sides, you know, and you got all your pattern and stuff up here, I'd wanted to go a much more rounded version. But what ends up typically happening for me is because I like my tensions so nice and tight, and the way that I'm kind of working along, they tended to be much flatter. And I have to admit, I'm not going to complain because they came out fine. They came out looking great. Little bit wavy here, not perfect, but the imperfection shows that, you know, this was made by a person and not some machine, not some factory. It's something that I've done myself. Now, when you get down to the very center, there's usually maybe a dozen or so strings. I just gather them all together and do one big knot on the inside, and that finishes off the whole thing. So I hope this video has been helpful. I hope it given you some ideas. I definitely hope to have some videos to actually show more of the making of it, but I suspect that they could be very long-winded. I mean, something like this one here, this probably took me a good whole day just to get the sides in. So that'd be an incredibly long video. I don't think anybody wants that. So hopefully I've helped, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks. If you enjoyed this video, do click like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you have any questions you'd like answered in future tutorials, leave a comment below. For more on friendship bracelets, visit AKAAWOL.com. Also, be sure to hit me up on Instagram at AKAAWOL. Thanks for watching, and don't get your strings in a bunch.